something quietly changed in Washington, and millions of seniors have no idea it's happening. The Social Security Administration just confirmed adjustments tied to the March 2026 payout cycle, and if you're collecting benefits right now, this affects your bank account directly. There's been serious discussion inside Congress and among SSA analysts about a supplemental payment structure that could push certain seniors' monthly deposits significantly higher, with figures circulating around the $4,200 range for qualifying recipients. But here's what the mainstream news isn't clearly explaining. Not everyone qualifies automatically. The eligibility window is narrow, and the deadline to make sure your information is updated with the SSA could already be closing. Thousands of seniors are leaving money on the table simply because they don't know what to check, what to update, or who actually qualifies under the new March disbursement guidelines. Before you assume this doesn't apply to you, watch every second of this video because what you're about to hear could change what hits your account this month. Let's start with the basics because a lot of people are confused about what's actually being discussed here, and that confusion is costing seniors real money. The Social Security Administration operates on a very specific payment schedule, and March 2026 is not just another ordinary month in that schedule. There are structural changes happening right now at the federal level that directly impact how benefits are calculated, distributed, and in some cases, supplemented. And when we talk about a potential $4,200 bonus figure, we are not talking about some random number that got pulled out of thin air. This number comes from serious budget discussions, legislative proposals, and SSA internal adjustment frameworks that have been circulating among policy analysts for months. So let's break down exactly what is going on, who it affects, and most importantly, what you need to do right now to make sure you don't miss out. First, you have to understand the bigger picture of what's been happening with Social Security over the past 2 years. The cost of living in America has gone through the roof. Groceries, prescription medications, utility bills, housing costs, everything that seniors depend on has become more expensive at a pace that the standard COLA, which stands for Cost of Living Adjustment, simply hasn't kept up with. The 2025 COLA adjustment was around 2.5%, and while that sounds decent on paper, seniors across the country have been saying loudly and clearly that it is not enough. A senior who was already struggling on a fixed income of $1,800 a month didn't suddenly find relief with an extra $45. That's the reality. And lawmakers in Washington have been hearing this frustration, which is part of why these new discussions about supplemental payments and adjusted disbursements have been gaining serious momentum going into 2026. Now, here is where the March 2026 payout conversation gets really important. There have been active legislative discussions about what some analysts are calling a one-time supplemental benefit payment for Social Security recipients who meet certain income and enrollment criteria. This isn't a permanent raise to your monthly check necessarily, but rather a structured bonus disbursement that the SSA would issue to eligible seniors as part of a broader economic relief effort tied to inflation corrections. The $4,200 figure specifically has come up in the context of what qualifying seniors at certain benefit thresholds could receive when you combine the adjusted disbursement with the retroactive corrections being applied to accounts where COLA calculations were previously underapplied. In plain English, that means the government may owe some seniors back money, and March 2026 is one of the windows where those corrections are being processed and paid out. You might be wondering right now whether you're one of the people who qualifies, and that is exactly the right question to be asking. The eligibility framework being discussed involves several factors. Your age plays a role, with those 62 and older being in the primary consideration pool. Your current monthly benefit amount matters because the supplemental structure is designed to help those who are receiving lower payments and have been most impacted by inflation. Whether you are receiving retirement benefits, disability benefits, or survivor benefits also plays into the calculation. And critically, whether your SSA account information is current and verified is one of the biggest factors that could determine whether your payment is processed on time or gets delayed or flagged for manual review. This last point about your account information is something that cannot be stressed enough, and it is something that the SSA itself has been quietly urging recipients to address. When was the last time you logged into your My Social Security account online and verified that your direct deposit information is correct? When did you last confirm that your mailing address on file is accurate? When did you last check that your Medicare enrollment status is properly linked to your Social Security record? These things sound like small administrative details, but they are the exact reasons why millions of seniors experience delays in receiving payments, miss out on adjustments they're owed, or in some cases, have payments returned or bounced because the banking information on file is outdated. If you have changed banks in the last couple of years, if you've moved, if you've had any changes to your name or contact information, you need to get that updated before the March disbursement cycle begins processing. Let's also talk about something that a lot of seniors don't know, and that is the concept of retroactive benefit corrections. The SSA has a process by which, if it is determined that a recipient was underpaid in previous months due to a calculation error, a system error, or a policy change that was applied going forward but not retroactively, the agency issues what's called a retroactive or back payment to cover the difference. These payments can be significant. Depending on how long the underpayment was occurring and what the corrected amount should have been, some seniors receive thousands of dollars in a single retroactive deposit. The $4,200 figure being discussed in the context of March 2026 is partly rooted in these retroactive correction payments, particularly for seniors who have been in the system for several years and whose records may have gaps or calculation inconsistencies that have never been formally addressed. Here is something else that is critically important and that most people are not talking about. There is a difference between being eligible for a payment and actually receiving it. The SSA does not automatically notify every single recipient when a new disbursement, adjustment, or supplemental payment becomes available. In many cases, the burden falls on the recipient to be informed, to check their account, to respond to any requests for verification, and to ensure their records are in order. This is not a perfect system, and it is one that disproportionately affects older seniors who may not be using online services regularly or who may not have family members helping them navigate the SSA's communication channels. If you are watching this video right now, you are already doing the right thing by staying informed. But you need to take that one step further and actually take action. One of the most important actions you can take right now is to call the Social Security Administration directly or visit your nearest SSA field office and ask a very specific question. Ask them whether your account has any pending adjustments, whether there are any retroactive corrections flagged for your record, and whether your payment information is current and verified for the upcoming March disbursement cycle. You have every right to ask these questions. The SSA representatives are there to help you, and a single phone call or visit could be the difference between receiving everything you're owed and having that money sit in a processing queue for months or even years. Now let's talk about the political and legislative side of this, because understanding what's happening in Washington right now gives important context to why March 2026 is such a significant month. There have been bipartisan conversations in Congress about the financial stability of the Social Security Trust Fund and about the adequacy of current benefit levels. Proposals have been introduced that would expand benefits for the lowest income recipients, adjust the calculation formulas used to determine monthly payments, and create one-time relief mechanisms for seniors who have been most impacted by inflation over the past several years. While not all of these proposals have been signed into law in their entirety, pieces of these frameworks are being implemented through SSA administrative authority, and March 2026 falls within the implementation timeline for several of these administrative adjustments. What this means for you practically is that the March 2026 payment cycle is not operating under the same standard rules as a typical month. There are additional layers of processing, additional eligibility checks being run, and additional funds being allocated at the administrative level. Seniors who are aware of this and who have made sure their records are in order stand a much better chance of receiving the full amount they are entitled to without delays or complications. Seniors who are unaware, whose records have errors, or whose contact information is outdated are at a much higher risk of experiencing delays or missing payments entirely until those issues are resolved. Let's also address the question of taxes, because this comes up every time there is discussion of a larger Social Security payment. Whether a supplemental or bonus Social Security payment is taxable depends on your total income for the year. If your combined income, which includes your adjusted gross income, any non-taxable interest, and half of your Social Security benefits exceeds certain thresholds, then a portion of your benefits may be subject to federal income tax. For individuals, that threshold is around $25,000, and for married couples filing jointly, it's around $32,000. If you are receiving a larger payment in March 2026 and you are near these thresholds, it would be smart to speak with a tax professional or a benefits counselor about how to plan for any potential tax impact, so you are not caught off guard when filing season arrives. Something else that deserves attention here is the role of Medicare in all of this. Many seniors don't realize that their Medicare premiums are directly deducted from their Social Security checks. If there are changes to your Medicare premium amounts in 2026, and there have been adjustments announced, then the net amount that actually hits your bank account from your Social Security deposit could be different from what you expect, even if your gross benefit goes up. This is another reason why checking your My Social Security account and reviewing your benefit statement carefully is so important right now. You want to know what your gross benefit amount is, what deductions are being taken out, and what your actual net deposit is going to be, so there are no surprises. There's also a significant population of seniors who are not yet receiving Social Security, but who are approaching the age of eligibility and are trying to decide when to claim. If you are in that group, the current climate of supplemental payments and benefit adjustments is extremely relevant to your decision. Claiming earlier means a permanently reduced monthly benefit, but it also means you begin receiving payments sooner and may be eligible for certain adjustment payments that are tied to active recipient status. Waiting longer, up to age 70, maximizes your monthly benefit amount. The right answer depends on your health, your financial situation, and your other sources of income. But given the current discussions around March 2026 disbursements, anyone who is on the fence about when to claim should be consulting with a Social Security benefit specialist or a financial advisor who is familiar with SSA rules before making that decision. Let's also speak to those of you who are caring for an elderly parent or a senior spouse who may not be following all of this themselves. You have an enormous opportunity right now to be an advocate for someone you love. Check their My Social Security account with them. Call the SSA on their behalf if they have given you permission or if you have power of attorney. Make sure their direct deposit information is correct, their address is current, and their benefit records are accurate. So many seniors miss out on money they are rightfully owed simply because no one in their life is helping them navigate this. If you have a senior in your family who is collecting Social Security benefits, sit down with them this week and go through their account together. It could be one of the most valuable things you do for them this year. Now, before we wrap up the core information here, let's revisit the $4,200 figure one more time, because it is important to be precise about what this means and what it doesn't mean. This figure is not a guaranteed payment that every single Social Security recipient will receive automatically on a specific date. What it represents is the potential combined value of supplemental disbursements, retroactive corrections, and adjusted benefit calculations that certain qualifying seniors could see reflected in their payments during the March 2026 cycle and the months surrounding it. For some seniors, the amount could be higher depending on their specific circumstances and benefit history. For others, it may be lower or may come in multiple installments over several months rather than all at once. The key takeaway is that there is real money on the table, real policy movement happening right now that is creating these payment opportunities. And the seniors who are informed and prepared are the ones who will receive what they are owed in the most timely and efficient way possible. The Social Security system was designed as a promise to American workers, a guarantee that after a lifetime of contributing to this country's economy, you would have a foundation of financial support in your retirement years. That promise has not always been perfectly kept, and the system has not always kept pace with the real-world financial pressures that seniors face. But right now, in this particular moment, there are real efforts being made to correct some of those gaps, to get more money to the seniors who need it most, and to make the March 2026 disbursement cycle a meaningful one for millions of Americans who have been waiting and working and hoping for relief. Do not let this moment pass you by without taking action. Check your account, verify your information, make that phone call, ask those questions, and make sure that when these payments go out, your name is on the list and your information is correct so that every single dollar you are owed finds its way to you without delay.